Hey loves, welcome back to the channel. They called him worthless, an Omega with no value, no future, and no place in their family. So they threw him away without looking back, but the rain carried an old scent back to him that night. The Alpha, who once promised to find him, had returned, and this time he was powerful enough to change everything. A promise made in fear, a reunion written by fate, and a bond strong enough to survive anything. This is their story. And before we begin, make sure you like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this video with someone who loves great love stories, subscribe so you never miss a new upload. Your support helps this channel grow and lets me keep bringing you more stories like this. Now, let's get into today's story. The first thing Ethan remembered was a voice in the dark. Hey, stay awake. Don't close your eyes on me, okay? Pain hit him from every direction. His head throbbed. His ribs burned. His leg felt shattered, every pulse of blood sending agony through it. He forced his eyes open and saw only shadows. An old room, boarded windows, damp concrete, rust in the air. And beside him, a stranger. A young Alpha about his age. Dark skin. Sharp features softened by worry. Braids half fallen loose across his forehead. Dirt streaked across his cheekbones. His hands were steady as he pressed torn fabric around Ethan's injured leg. But what Ethan noticed most, even through pain, was the scent around him. Forest after the rain, earth rich with water, pine and wet bark, fresh air after a storm, calm in the middle of terror. You're hurt bad, the Alpha said quietly, but I've got you. Where are we? Ethan croaked. I don't know, he admitted, but we're getting out. That was the beginning. They had both been kidnapped the same day. Two college-aged men from completely different lives. Ethan was an Omega, studying engineering, quiet and hardworking, trying to build a future with scholarships and grit. The other was Sebastian, an Alpha born into wealth, prestige, and expectations, different worlds. Same nightmare. Ethan had fought back when they took him. That was why he was broken now. Sebastian had been luckier physically. So he made a decision the moment Ethan woke up. If one of them could still stand, then one of them would protect the other. Days blurred inside the locked room. Food came irregularly. Water barely enough. The cold sank into their bones. Sebastian always pushed the larger share toward Ethan. You need it. He tore strips from his hoodie to rewrap Ethan's leg. He dragged an old crate across the floor so Ethan wouldn't have to lie directly on concrete. When Ethan drifted too deeply into pain-exhaustion sleep, Sebastian shook him awake. Stay with me. Fear lived in the room with them, and so did pheromones. At first, Ethan barely noticed, but stress sharpened instincts, pain weakened control. In the stale, enclosed air, his Omega scent began leaking out in waves whenever panic rose. Roses and sugar. Soft petals warmed by sunlight, sweetness wrapped around vulnerability. Even in fear, Ethan smelled heartbreakingly gentle. Sebastian noticed immediately. The first time Ethan woke from a nightmare shaking, breathing too fast, his scent flooding the room with distress, Sebastian reacted without thinking. His Alpha pheromones surged. Forest. After the rain, deep woods, wet earth, cedar, storm-cleansed air, strong, steady, protective, not dominance, shelter. Look at me, Sebastian said, crouching close. Ethan couldn't focus. Breathe with me, Sebastian's scent wrapped through. The room like safety made tangible. Ethan's frantic breathing slowly matched his. The sweetness of roses and sugar began settling under the steady scent of rain-soaked forest. Sebastian, Ethan whispered, I've got you. After that, it became instinct. When Ethan hurt, Sebastian steadied him. When Ethan panicked, Sebastian grounded him, and when Sebastian's own fear rose, Ethan would reach for his hand, calming him in return. They stopped being strangers, somewhere between hunger and survival. What's your name? Ethan asked one night. Sebastian hesitated. Sebastian. I'm Ethan, Sebastian repeated it softly, like memorizing prayer. Ethan. On the coldest night, no food came at all. Ethan was shaking so badly he couldn't hide it. His scent filled the room. Roses bruised by winter, sugar melting into exhaustion, pain and loneliness woven through every breath. Sebastian moved instantly, taking off his hoodie and wrapping it around Ethan's shoulders before sitting close behind him, chest to back, arms around him to share warmth. The contact sent a jolt through both of them. Their pheromones reacted at once. Ethan's roses bloomed warmer, sweetness deepening instinctively towards safety. Sebastian's forest scent darkened. Rainfall on moss, bark split open with fresh cedar, wind through trees before dawn. Then, for the first time, something entirely new was born between them. Their scents blended, roses, after the rain, after morning dew, fresh petals kissed by dawn moisture, sweetness carried through cool mist, the softness of a flower garden, waking beneath trees after a storm. So was it. Filled the room like a promise neither of them understood yet. Stay with me, Sebastian murmured near his ear. I'm trying, Ethan whispered. You're safe right now. Ethan leaned back against him unconsciously. Don't stop talking. Sebastian's hold tightened slightly. I won't. The room changed. What had been survival became something else. Something older than logic. Something instinctive. Ethan turned slightly, enough that their foreheads nearly touched. Sebastian. Yeah? I can feel you. I know. Sebastian slowly took Ethan's wrist in his hand. Warm skin. Immediate reaction. Their scents synchronized sharply. Roses and sugar opening fully into trust. Forest after rain, answering with unwavering shelter, both merging into that new dawn scent. Roses after the rain, after morning dew. A scent of belonging. A bond imprint. Not complete, not sealed, but recognized. Both of them froze under the force of it. Ethan's eyes fluttered shut. What is this? Sebastian swallowed hard. Us. Ethan stared at him in the darkness. If we get out, he said softly, voice trembling. Find me. Sebastian didn't hesitate. I will. No matter what. No matter what. Ethan's throat tightened. Then when we're free? He gave a shaky smile. Bond with me properly. Sebastian leaned his forehead to Ethan's. Promise. 3 days later, the door exploded inward, shouting, flashlights, boots pounding. Rescue. Teams flooded the room. Ethan flinched violently, grabbing for Sebastian as strangers rushed in. His Omega scent spiked, roses torn open, sugar burning sharp with panic. Sebastian instantly moved in front of him. His Alpha scent crashed through the room like thunder, rolling over wet trees. But beneath it lingered that third scent. Morning dew. On roses after rain. The trace of them. Don't crowd him. Don't crowd. He barked. Even rescuers paused. He's injured, one said. He needs calm first. Ethan's hand fisted in Sebastian's sleeve. Don't leave me. Sebastian turned, eyes softening. Rainforest calm returned to his scent. I'm not. But they tore them apart anyway. Medical protocol, separate vehicles, separate evaluations, separate treatment. Sebastian. Ethan shouted, reaching despite the pain. Sebastian fought against the hands restraining him. Ethan, I'll find you! Sebastian's voice rang over the chaos. I promise! Then ambulance doors slammed shut, and they were gone. Years passed. Ethan recovered slowly. His family, already ashamed of having an Omega son who wanted engineering instead of marriage, became colder after the kidnapping. They wanted him quiet, soft, presentable, marriage, ready. Instead, Ethan became stronger. He finished school late, worked construction, and repair jobs to support himself, built things with bruised hands and stubborn pride. His family hated it. You shame us, his father spat one evening. An Omega, doing labor like a common worker. You should be learning to serve a husband. You're worthless. His mother wouldn't even meet his eyes. When Ethan refused to quit working, refused to apologize for surviving, they disowned him completely. They threw his bags onto the porch, locked the door, and left him standing outside with everything he owned in 2 duffel bags. Rain began to fall. Ethan laughed once, sharp and broken. His scent drifted into the storm. Wilted roses. Sugar dissolved in grief. Then he started walking. Sebastian never stopped searching. his family resources had found corporations, missing persons, legal records, property trails. But Ethan had lived quietly, slipping through systems. Still, Sebastian kept looking. Always. The night he found him, he was stepping from a black car after another useless meeting when a scent hit him like lightning. Roses, sugar, rain-soaked and faint, and underneath it, almost lost to sorrow. Morning dew, his Omega. Sebastian turned sharply. Across the street, under a flickering bus stop light, stood Ethan with 2 bags at his feet, soaked through, staring blankly into the rain. Older, broader shoulders, hands roughened by labor, eyes tired. Beautiful. Sebastian. Crossed the street without thinking. Ethan. Ethan froze. That voice. Slowly, he turned. And there he was. Sebastian. Sharper now. Taller. Dressed in wealth and authority. But before Ethan could even fully see him, he smelled him. Forest after the rain. The same scent that once towed his body. How to calm. Ethan's lips parted. You found me. Sebastian stepped closer, scent flooding the rainy air. Wet cedar, earth, green life after storm, and when their scents touched again, roses after the rain, after morning dew, bloomed between them instantly, stronger than ever. I told you I would. Ethan's control cracked instantly. Years of loneliness, rejection, exhaustion hit all at once. His Omega scent spilled raw and aching. Roses drenched in rain, sugar trembling at the edges. Sebastian closed the distance and caught him before his knees gave out. I've got you, he murmured, just like before. Ethan gripped his coat with shaking hands. They threw me away. Sebastian's jaw clenched. His scent deepened, stormed through the trees. No, he said quietly. They lost you. Ethan made a broken sound between laugh and sob. I'm nothing they wanted. Sebastian lifted Ethan's chin. You are everything I searched for. Rain ran down both their faces. Ethan whispered, You still remember? Sebastian leaned in until their foreheads touched exactly as they had in the darkroom years ago. I never forgot. Their pheromones surged. The instant skin met skin, roses and sugar. Forest after the rain, and the scent born only for them, roses. After the rain, after morning dew, sweetness finding shelter, home finding home. This time there was no fear, no concrete walls, no interruption, only recognition, only choice, only home. Sebastian's. Ethan did go with him. There had never really been another answer. Sebastian opened the car door himself, ignoring the driver who rushed forward too late. He took Ethan's bags, placed them carefully in the trunk, then guided Ethan into the back seat, like something precious that had nearly been lost. The ride was quiet, not awkward, just full. Years of absence pressed softly between them. Ethan sat wrapped in one of Sebastian's coats, rainwater still damp in his hair, staring out the window. As city lights blurred past, This is insane, he murmured finally. Sebastian glanced at him. What part? You showing up out of nowhere. I didn't come out of nowhere, Sebastian said calmly. I came from years of searching. Ethan's throat tightened. Then he looked down at the expensive coat around his shoulders. And now what? He asked softly. Sebastian answered without hesitation. Now I take you home. Home turned out to be a sprawling estate, set back behind iron gates and old trees, more private than flashy. Elegant stone, warm lights, staff who moved efficiently but discreetly. Ethan froze the moment the car stopped. No. Sebastian blinked. No. I'm not walking in there looking like this. Sebastian looked him over. Rain-soaked clothes. Work boots. Exhaustion in every line of his body. Then he stepped closer. You could walk in, covered in mud and carrying bricks, Sebastian said quietly, and still be the best thing to ever cross that threshold. Ethan stared at him. That was smooth. I've had years to practice. Despite everything, Ethan laughed, and Sebastian's scent deepened warmly. Forest after the rain touched by relief. His parents were waiting. They must have been alerted. The second the gates opened, The front doors parted before they reached them, revealing a poised older Omega woman in silk, and an imposing Alpha man with silver at his temples. Sebastian's mother gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth. No. She took 3 quick steps forward, eyes locked on Ethan. No way. Sebastian's father, usually carved from discipline and restraint, stared openly. That's him, Sebastian said simply. The house went still. The Omega from the kidnapping, his mother whispered. The one you never stopped looking for. His father added. Ethan suddenly became aware of everything at once. His cheap clothes, his worn boots, the calluses on his hands. The fact that he was standing in the foyer of one of the wealthiest families in the city, smelling faintly of rain, roses, and exhaustion. He straightened instinctively. Hello, sir. Ma'am. Sebastian's mother burst into tears. Then she crossed the room and hugged him. Ethan went rigid in shock. Oh, thank heavens, she said into his shoulder. I was beginning to think my son had hallucinated you. Mother, Sebastian muttered. Ignore him, she said, pulling back to cup Ethan's face. You're real, slightly underfed, emotionally wounded, and dressed terribly, but real. Sebastian's father stepped forward next. He studied Ethan for one long moment, then nodded once. You kept him human. Ethan blinked. I'm sorry? Older Alpha glanced at Sebastian. He became terrifyingly efficient after losing you. Sebastian sighed. Father. What? It's true. Ethan looked between them, stunned. They weren't angry. They weren't dismissive. They were relieved. That lasted exactly one evening. The next morning, Sebastian walked into the breakfast room to find Ethan surrounded. His mother had 3 stylists. His father had 2 etiquette consultants. A tailor was pinning fabric against Ethan's shoulders while someone else discussed language tutors. Ethan looked dazed, clutching a piece of toast like a lifeline. Sebastian stopped in the doorway. What is this? His mother looked up brightly. Training. For what? She blinked. For your future husband, obviously. Ethan nearly choked. Sebastian's father folded a newspaper. We have assessed the situation. There was an assessment? Sebastian asked flatly. Yes, his father said. The Omega is intelligent, hard-working, loyal, and clearly adored by our son. Ethan slowly lowered the toast. Thank you. However, his mother continued, circling him critically, he cannot yet host diplomatic dinners, navigate board galas, or destroy rivals politely over dessert. Sebastian pinched the bridge of his nose. Mother. She's right, his father said. Love qualifies him emotionally. Competence will qualify him socially. Ethan looked horrified. I have to qualify? Sebastian crossed the room. Immediately, and placed a calming hand on Ethan's shoulder. His scent rolled out. Forest after rain. Steady reassurance. No one is qualifying you. His mother sniffed. Fine. Refining. Ethan whispered. That sounds worse. The weeks that followed were chaos. Beautiful chaos. Ethan learned formal dining and muttered under his breath the entire time. He learned ballroom dancing by stepping on Sebastian repeatedly. He learned how to wear tailored suits that made Sebastian visibly lose focus. He learned 3 languages well enough to insult people elegantly. He learned that Sebastian's mother was terrifying at cards. And through it all, he never once lost the parts of himself that mattered most. He still woke early. Still fixed loose hinges himself instead of calling staff. Still thanked everyone by name. Still blushed every time Sebastian looked at him too long. One afternoon, Sebastian found his parents watching Ethan through the conservatory doors. Ethan was helping a groundskeeper repair a broken irrigation valve, sleeves rolled up, laughing as he worked. His mother sighed dramatically. He's perfect. His father nodded once. He was from the beginning. Sebastian crossed his arms. Then why the circus? His father looked mildly offended. Because now he'll be perfect in cufflinks. The proposal happened 6 months later. Sebastian planned something elaborate. Rooftop dinner, private quartet, custom ring flown in from Europe, speech prepared and memorized. Then Ethan ruined it beautifully. They were in the estate workshop because Ethan had decided to build shelves himself. Sawdust covered his shirt. There was grease on his cheek. He was explaining bracket support angles with intense seriousness when he looked up and frowned. Why do you look nervous? Sebastian, CEO of a multinational corporation, froze. I'm not nervous. You smell nervous. Traitorous nose. Ethan laughed, and Sebastian realized suddenly he didn't want a rehearsed moment. He wanted this. So he dropped to one knee, right there on the workshop floor. Ethan stared. Sebastian pulled the ring from his pocket. Roses and sugar bloomed sharply in the air. His own scent answered, forest after the rain. Then together, between them, rose the fragrance that had only ever belonged to the two of them. Roses after the rain, after morning dew. Ethan, Sebastian said, voice rougher than intended, I found you once in the dark and again in the rain. Ethan's eyes filled instantly. You are the promise I kept and the home I chose. He opened the ring box. Will you marry me? Ethan made a strangled sound, then launched himself forward so hard Sebastian nearly fell backward. Yes, they hit the floor, laughing. The ring box skidded across the room. Sebastian kissed him, breathless anyway. When they finally surfaced for air, Ethan whispered against his mouth, You know you're still buying the shelves. Sebastian smiled. Done. From the doorway, his mother sobbed loudly. His father muttered, I told you he'd say yes. Neither of them had realized the family had been watching. Ethan groaned into Sebastian's shoulder. I'm never recovering from this. Sebastian kissed his temple. You don't have to. And wrapped in love, laughter, and the scent of morning dew after rain, Ethan believed him. Ethan became an engineer 3 months after the engagement, not because he was Sebastian's fiancé, and absolutely not because Sebastian was CEO. That point had been made so aggressively by Ethan that the board still flinched when his name came up. I am not being handed anything, Ethan had said during his interview, seated across from a panel of senior executives, while Sebastian was explicitly banned from the room. You're interviewing for an entry-level engineering position, one board member had said carefully. Good. You're overqualified. Better. You're the CEO's future spouse. Ethan's expression had gone flat. I'm an engineer. If that's a problem, I can apply somewhere else. He was hired before lunch, by unanimous vote, mostly because his portfolio was exceptional, partly because several executives were afraid he might actually leave. His first day at the company was chaos. Half the building expected a pampered Omega, who would drift in late and ask for decorative tasks. Instead, Ethan arrived early in Chiwani Sho'yu, steel-toed boots, carrying his own coffee, and spent the morning correcting a load-bearing support model someone senior had approved. By noon, 3 departments respected him. By Friday, 7 people were mildly in love with him. By the second week, he had a reputation for being brilliant, stubborn, and impossible to intimidate. Sebastian adored all of it. He also adored sneaking upstairs under fake pretenses, just to watch Ethan work through the glass walls of the design lab. You know, people notice when the CEO randomly visits structural engineering every day, Ethan said one afternoon without looking up from his tablet. I'm reviewing morale. You're staring at me. That too. Ethan's cheeks pinked instantly, roses and sugar rising warm into the air. Sebastian smiled. Forest after the rain answered at once. And where their scents met, roses after the rain after morning dew. Even now, years later, it still happened naturally. Wedding planning began like a storm. Ethan wanted something small. Simple ceremony, close friends, family, good food, done. Sebastian's family wanted a 6-day event involving imported flowers, orchestra rotations, designer attire changes, and what Ethan suspected might include fireworks visible from space. It should be elegant, Ethan argued. It should be historic, Sebastian's mother countered. It should cost less than a small nation. It should inspire nations. Sebastian sipped tea and watched them like it was theater. Why are you smiling? Ethan demanded. Because both of you were terrifying. His father lowered a newspaper. The compromise is obvious. They all turned. He continued calmly. An intimate ceremony followed by an extravagant reception. Sebastian's mother gasped. That's brilliant. Ethan narrowed his eyes. You planned this. The older Alpha returned to his paper. I have no idea what you mean. So the compromise was made. Private vows in a garden chapel. Grand reception at the family estate. Ethan picked the flowers. Sebastian's mother picked everything else. There were cake tastings, venue walkthroughs, seating charts, custom fabrics, and endless debates over invitation paper. At work, Ethan managed engineering deadlines. At home, he argued over napkin textures. Somehow, he had never been happier. They were busy, exhausted, laughing constantly, living the kind of peace Ethan once believed belonged only to other people. Some nights they fell asleep fully dressed on top of spreadsheets and floral samples. Other nights, Sebastian would pull Ethan into his lap, while both of them still answered emails. "This is romantic," Ethan muttered once, typing one-handed. "Very," Sebastian agreed, kissing his neck. "Stop distracting me." "Never." Roses and sugar spilled warm through the room. Forest after rain wrapped around it. Morning dew bloomed softly between them. Then the media found out. It started with a blurry photo. CEO Sebastian Vale leaving headquarters with his fiancée. Then another. Then old whispers resurfaced. Mystery Omega engaged a billionaire executive, who is the man who captured the nation's most eligible alpha, from labor jobs to luxury life, inside Ethan Carter's shocking rise. By morning, every entertainment site had it. By afternoon, business outlets covered the merger of love and power. By evening, reporters were outside the gates. Ethan stood in the kitchen staring at his phone, his scent soured with stress, roses bruised at the edges. "This is ridiculous." Sebastian took the phone gently from his hand and set it face down. "Then don't read it. They're dissecting my life. They're trying to monetize irrelevance. That's not comforting." Sebastian stepped closer, hands settling at Ethan's waist. Forest after rain rolled warm and steady around him. "No," he said softly. "But this is." Ethan exhaled shakily into his shoulder. The mixed scent of morning dew slowly returned. They thought that would be the worst of it. They were wrong. 2 days later, Ethan received a call from an unknown number while reviewing bridge schematics. He almost ignored it. Something made him answer. "Hello?" Silence. Then his mother's voice. "Ethan." He went completely still. Across the room. One of his co-workers looked up immediately. His scent dropped sharp with shock. "Yes," he said carefully. A wet inhale came through the line. "We saw the news." Another voice in the background. His father. Then his mother again, suddenly warm in a way she had never sounded before. "We didn't know how to reach you." Ethan's hand tightened around the phone. "You had my number for years." Pause. "We thought space was best." "You threw me out." More silence. Then his father's voice cut in. "That was unfortunate." Ethan's face changed. Cold. Controlled. Across headquarters, Sebastian, 3 floors above in a board meeting, abruptly went still. His alpha instincts surged so hard the room quieted instantly. He stood. "Meeting adjourned." No one argued. Back in the lab, Ethan's father continued. "We should talk, as a family." Ethan laughed once. It held no humor. "Now?" "You're getting married," his mother said quickly. "We don't want there to be bitterness." "You mean embarrassment?" Ethan said. "That's unfair." "No," he replied quietly. "What was unfair was calling me worthless." The line went silent again. Then his father changed tactics. "This union affects all of us now." There it was. Not regret. Opportunity. Ethan closed his eyes. All those years of pain condensed into one clear truth. They had not come back because they loved him. They had come back because Sebastian had value. The office doors opened sharply. Sebastian entered like a storm contained in human form. He crossed straight to Ethan, one look enough to understand everything. Without asking, he placed a hand on Ethan's back. Forest after rain flooded the space. Steady. Protective. Home. Ethan nearly sagged in relief. Sebastian held out his hand. "Give me the phone." Ethan passed it over. Sebastian lifted it to his ear. "This is Sebastian Vale." A startled inhale answered, then frantic politeness. Sebastian's voice stayed calm. "You disowned him." Silence. "You do not get to return because his life became valuable to you." Another stammered excuse. You may send a written apology if sincerity ever finds you. He ended the call, blocked the number, then handed the phone back. The entire engineering department pretended not to watch. Ethan stared at him. That was intense. Sebastian cupped his face gently. You are not available for emotional scavengers. Ethan laughed through sudden tears. Roses and sugar flooded the room. Sebastian kissed his forehead. Morning dew rose between them. From the doorway, Ethan's manager quietly said to no one. In particular, I would die for both of them. No one disagreed. Sebastian looked back at Ethan. Now, he said, voice softening. Where were we? Ethan sniffed. Arguing over centerpieces. Excellent, Sebastian replied. Something truly important. The weeks leading to the wedding passed in a blur of fittings, final approvals, and increasingly dramatic arguments over flowers. Ethan learned there were at least 6 categories of white roses. Sebastian's mother learned Ethan could not be bullied by florists, event planners, or inherited wealth. Sebastian learned saying, I support whatever Ethan wants, was the safest answer in any room. Work remained busy. Wedding plans became busier. But through it all, happiness held. Every morning, Ethan went to the engineering division, coffee in hand, sharp mind already 3 steps ahead of everyone else. Every evening, Sebastian stole him home, where menus, guest lists, and fabrics waited. Sometimes Ethan would collapse onto the bed and groan into a pillow. This is too much. Sebastian would lie beside him, pull him close, and breathe against the back of his neck. You're doing beautifully. Roses and sugar would warm the room. Forest after the rain would answer, and together, morning dew blooming over fresh petals. Their scent, their home. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and bright. The private chapel garden shimmered with early sunlight, dew still clinging to ivy and white blooms. Ethan noticed immediately and laughed softly. Even nature is showing off now. Sebastian, already half-dressed and impossibly handsome, looked up from fastening his cufflinks. What? Do. Sebastian smiled slowly. Seems appropriate. Ethan rolled his eyes, though his cheeks flushed pink. Preparation was chaos. Stylists everywhere. Sebastian's mother crying every 20 minutes. His father pretending not to be emotional, while secretly adjusting place cards himself. Executives. Arriving. Old family friends arriving. Security teams stationed discreetly because the media had camped outside the estate gates since dawn. And Ethan stood in front of the mirror, wearing a tailored cream suit that made him look elegant without losing any of himself. Strong shoulders. Warm eyes. Hands still rough from work. A man who had built his own future. He stared for a long moment. A knock sounded. Come in. Sebastian entered despite strict instructions not to. Everyone in the room gasped. It's bad luck, one stylist cried. Sebastian ignored them all. He crossed straight to Ethan and stopped breathing for half a second. You look, he swallowed. Dangerously beautiful. Ethan laughed nervously. You're overdressed. You're underestimating yourself. Sebastian stepped closer and touched his wrist. Instantly, roses and sugar bloomed. Forest after rain wrapped around it. Morning dew shimmered between them. The room collectively melted. You're not supposed to be here, Ethan whispered. No. Then why are you here? Sebastian's voice lowered. I needed to see you before I promised myself to you in front of everyone. Ethan's eyes filled instantly. That's cheating. I'm the CEO, Sebastian said smoothly. I call it executive privilege. Guests were seated by noon. The chapel garden was intimate by Vale standards, which still meant breathtaking. Sunlight through flowering trees, string quartet under an arbor, white stone aisle lined with petals. Close friends, business leaders, family. And the people who had loved them enough to witness joy. Sebastian waited at the altar, hands clasped behind his back to hide how tightly they were shaking. His father leaned in. You look nervous. I'm fine. You smell terrified. Please go sit down. Then the music changed. Everyone turned. Ethan appeared at the end of the aisle, and the world stopped. He walked alone by choice, not because he had no one, because he had walked. Enough hard roads on his own to claim this final one for himself. Every step was steady. Every step earned. Sebastian's eyes burned. By the time Ethan reached him, tears were openly falling down Sebastian's face. Ethan smiled softly. "You're crying. You're late. I'm exactly on time," the officiant began. Words were spoken, promises honored, then vows. Sebastian went first. "I found you in darkness," he said, voice shaking, "and I promised to find you again in the light." Ethan's breath caught. "You taught me that strength can be gentle, that survival can become love, that home can be a person." Roses and sugar trembled sweetly in the air. Sebastian smiled through tears. "I choose you in every lifetime I'm given." When Ethan's turn came, he looked at Sebastian for a long moment before speaking. "You were the first place I ever felt safe." Silence fell deeper. "You saw worth in me when pain was all I could offer." Sebastian's eyes closed briefly. "You found me after everyone else let me go." Forest after rain deepened warmly around them. "So now I choose you back. Publicly. Permanently. Joyfully." Even Sebastian's father had to clear his throat. "By the authority vested in me," the officiant smiled, "you may bond your vows with a kiss." Sebastian didn't wait. He pulled Ethan forward and kissed him like relief, like gratitude, like years of longing finally answered. Their pheromones surged, roses and sugar. Forest after the rain. Morning dew over blooming petals. Guests actually sighed. Somewhere behind them, Sebastian's mother sobbed loudly into a handkerchief. Then came applause. Cheers. Laughter and movement near the back gate. Security stiffened. Several heads turned. Ethan slowly broke the kiss and looked over Sebastian's shoulder. His family stood at the edge of the garden. His mother in formal wear too expensive to be accidental. His father, stiff-backed and solemn. Two siblings behind them. They had come. Uninvited. The joy of the moment faltered sharply. Ethan's scent bruised at the edges. Sebastian turned immediately, posture changing in an instant. Protective, cold, forest after rain, before thunder. His father was already moving toward security, but Ethan touched Sebastian's arm. "Wait." Sebastian looked back at him. "Are you sure?" "No," Ethan said honestly, "but I'm done being afraid of them." He stepped down from the altar platform and walked toward the gate. The entire garden held its breath. His family straightened as he approached. His mother smiled too quickly. "You look wonderful." Ethan said nothing. His father cleared his throat. "We came to support you." "You came because cameras are outside," Ethan replied. The smile faltered. His mother reached for his hand. He stepped back. Tears sprang instantly to her eyes. "Ethan, please." "We were wrong." His father's jaw tightened. "We handled things poorly. You called me worthless." Silence. "You threw me out in the rain." More silence. Behind Ethan, Sebastian descended the steps, not rushing, just arriving. His presence settled beside Ethan like an unshakable wall, his scent wrapped around Ethan's quietly. Steady. Home. Ethan continued. "You don't get to appear at the happiest day of my life and act like the years between never happened," his mother began. Crying in earnest now. "We wanted another chance." Ethan looked at her for a long moment, then at the man beside him, at the family behind him who had chosen him freely, at the guests waiting patiently, at the life he had built. "You may have one," he said finally. Shock crossed all their faces. "But not today." His father blinked. "What?" "Today belongs to me." He stepped back towards Sebastian. "If you truly want to make amends, start later. Quietly. Honestly. Without expecting access." His mother whispered, "Ethan." He shook his head once. "Today you are guests at most." Then he turned away. Security, with remarkable satisfaction, guided them to distant seating near the rear reception garden. Sebastian leaned close. That was incredibly attractive. Ethan snorted. "I'm in formal wear. Everything I do is attractive." Sebastian smiled slowly. "Yes, husband." Ethan froze. "You called me husband." "I did." Roses and sugar burst bright into the air. Morning dew followed, Sebastian laughed and kissed him again, while the guests cheered louder than before. And for the first time, with everyone watching, Ethan felt chosen in every way that mattered. 3 years later, the house was louder, warmer, chaotic in ways neither Ethan nor Sebastian would ever trade. Because instead of one baby, they had been given 3. Triplets. Born healthy after long dramatic labor that Sebastian still could not discuss without visibly paling. 2 boys and 1 girl. Elias, the eldest by 4 minutes, serious-eyed and observant, already convinced he was in charge. Noah, laughing, reckless, forever climbing furniture he had been told not to. Climb. Rose, the youngest, sweet-faced and cunning, able to manipulate every adult in the house with one blink. They were 3 years old now, and they ruled the Vale estate absolutely. Mornings were madness. Ethan would be halfway dressed for work, while Noah ran through the hall wearing only 1 sock. Rose would be in Sebastian's office chair pretending to run the corporation. Elias would stand beside the kitchen island with a clipboard Sebastian had accidentally given him, listing everyone's failures. Papa forgot his lunch. I did not, Ethan protested. You did. He did, Sebastian confirmed. Traitor. Breakfast usually ended with someone crying, someone laughing, and someone covered in syrup, often all 3 at once. Ethan had reduced his hours at the company to spend more time with the children. He still led major engineering projects, still brilliant and respected, but now he left meetings early for dance recitals, doctor appointments, and emergency calls about finger paint on imported rugs. Sebastian remained CEO. He also attended tea parties in tiny chairs while wearing $1,000 suits. Life was absurd. Life was beautiful. Some nights Ethan would stand in the nursery doorway, watching the triplets sleep in their beds, and tears would gather unexpectedly. Sebastian always knew why. Because there had been a time when Ethan never imagined surviving, never imagined being loved, never imagined this. So Sebastian would step behind him, wrap arms around his waist, and breathe against his neck. Forest after the rain. Roses and sugar answering softly. Their permanent joint scent rising warm around them. And Ethan would lean back into home. The kidnapping happened on a Tuesday. A normal Tuesday. Which was the cruelest part. There had been breakfast chaos. Rose hiding toast in a plant. Noah refusing shoes. Elias informing everyone the dog had. A questionable judgment. Ethan kissed all 3 children before heading to the office for a half-day meeting. Sebastian had a board session downtown. The triplets were meant to spend the afternoon in the private estate garden with 2 nannies and security nearby. Routine. Safe. Controlled. Nothing about the day warned them. At 2:17 p.m., Ethan was reviewing stress load calculations when pain ripped through the mating bond. He gasped so sharply the room froze. One hand slammed against the conference table. His scent crashed into panic. Roses torn open. Sugar burned bitter. Across the city, Sebastian stood mid-presentation and staggered. Every executive in the boardroom went white, because the CEO's controlled alpha scent detonated into storm-dark terror. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. They both knew it at the same time. The children. The estate was already in lockdown when they arrived. Gates sealed. Security shouting into radios. Vehicles everywhere. Sebastian exited the car before it fully stopped. Where are they? No one answered fast enough. He roared. The head of security stepped forward, pale. Sir, there was a breach. Staff incapacitated. Cameras looped. The children were taken approximately 22 minutes ago. The world went silent. Ethan swayed. No, he whispered. No. Sebastian caught him instantly, but his own hands were shaking violently. The nannies were alive, drugged, bruised, devastated. One sobbed as she spoke. They knew the grounds, knew the routes, knew exactly where to go. Then she said the words that froze Ethan's blood. One of them said, "Now they'll know how it feels." Ethan went cold from the inside out. He knew that voice, or rather the kind of hatred behind it. The past had found them. Police, private investigators, federal contacts, everyone moved at once. But Ethan could barely hear any of it. He stood in the nursery. 3 beds, 3 blankets, 3 stuffed animals abandoned mid-play. Rose's rabbit on the floor. Noah's dinosaur missing an arm. Elias's little clipboard on the dresser. His knees gave out. Sebastian dropped beside him immediately. Ethan broke then. Full-body sobs that years of healing had never erased the capacity for. They took our babies. Sebastian pulled him into his chest so tightly it bordered desperate. I know. They took our babies. I know. Forest after the rain had become thunder over shattered woods. Their joined scent trembled with grief. Sebastian's voice was raw when he spoke again. The same people. Ethan looked up, tears streaming. How do you know? Sebastian's jaw clenched so hard it hurt to watch. Because only someone who hated us before would know where to wound us now. An old investigator arrived before nightfall, retired, called personally, by Sebastian's father. He had worked the original kidnapping case years ago. He listened quietly to every detail, then asked one question. Did they leave anything? Security exchanged looks. A bag had been found near the rear hedge. Inside was an old strip of faded cloth, the one Ethan had used years ago to wrap his broken leg. Ethan nearly stopped breathing. Sebastian took the cloth from the evidence bag with trembling fingers. The message was clear. We remember too. That night, the estate became war headquarters. Maps, phones, search teams, digital analysts, law enforcement. No one slept. Ethan refused sedation. Sebastian refused rest. His parents took command of logistics with terrifying efficiency. His mother coordinated media silence. His father mobilized contacts no one asked about. At 3:12 a.m., Ethan stood in the dark nursery. Again, Sebastian entered quietly. For the first time in years, he looked like the young Alpha from the concrete room. Furious, terrified, determined. Ethan whispered, "What if they're scared?" Sebastian crossed the room and held him. "Then they'll know we're coming." "What if they cry for us?" "Then we answer." "What if—" Sebastian cupped his face firmly. "Listen to me." Ethan met his eyes. "I found you twice," Sebastian said, voice like steel wrapped in grief. "I will find them too." Ethan shattered into tears again. Sebastian kissed his forehead, then made a vow into the dark. "To whoever took them, you should have run farther." The lead came at dawn. A traffic camera 2 counties away caught a delivery van with clone plates entering an abandoned industrial district. The timestamp matched the window after the kidnapping. Thermal scans from a private drone later showed intermittent movement inside a shuttered warehouse complex long scheduled for demolition. Sebastian was already moving before the report finished. Ethan was right behind him. "You're not going alone," Ethan said. Sebastian turned sharply. "It could be dangerous. They took our children." That's exactly why Ethan stepped into him, eyes blazing. "I survived before you found me. I built a life after being thrown away. I engineered half the systems in your company. I can bypass 3 kinds of security doors in under a minute." Sebastian went quiet, then nodded once. "Get in the car." The warehouse district looked dead. Broken windows, chain-link fences, rusting loading docks. But Ethan could feel it instantly. Wrongness. Too quiet. Too arranged. They entered with a private tactical team through separate points, communication lines. Open. Ethan wore an earpiece and carried a tablet connected to building schematics he'd pulled from archived city records. "This wall is fake," he whispered, scanning a thermal anomaly. A panel slid aside after he triggered the old maintenance. "Latch." Sebastian looked at him. "You're very attractive when criminally competent." "Focus." They moved deeper. Then, a sound. Small. Muffled. "Papa!" Ethan's heart stopped. "Rose," he ran. The team followed through a narrow corridor into a hidden storage room where 3 tiny figures were bound but unharmed, guarded by 1 panicked captor. Sebastian hit the man before he could raise the weapon. The room exploded into motion. Ethan dropped to his knees, ripping restraints free. "Noah, baby, look at me. Are you hurt?" "No," Noah sobbed, clinging to him. Elias was trying not to cry and failing bravely. Rose simply launched herself into Ethan's arms. "We were waiting," she hiccuped. "I know," Ethan choked out. "I know." Sebastian scooped Elias up one-armed while barking orders into his comm. Children secured. Exfil route now. For one suspended moment, joy hit so hard it hurt. They had them. They had their babies. Then the floor detonated beneath them. Secondary blast rocked the corridor. Dust, metal, screams over comms. Emergency lights died. Someone had rigged the building. Sebastian shoved Ethan and the children behind a concrete support as debris rained down. "Move!" he shouted. Multiple footsteps approached through the smoke. Not one captor, several, waiting for exactly this, a trap inside the rescue. Sebastian understood instantly. They wanted us here. Gunfire cracked. The tactical team engaged somewhere down the hall, but visibility was ruined. Ethan held the children behind him, body shaking. Sebastian turned to him with terrifying calm. "There's a service tunnel, 30 feet east," he said. "Quickly. Take it to the outer yard." "How do you know?" "I saw it on the way in. We go together." "No." "Sebastian." 3 armed figures emerged through the haze. Sebastian moved before anyone breathed. He charged them head-on. The corridor became violence. He fought like fury given form, buying seconds with bone and blood. "Go!" he roared. Ethan didn't move. "I said go!" One captor swung a rifle stock toward Ethan's side. Sebastian intercepted it with his own body. The crack of impact was sickening. He staggered. Ethan screamed. Then a 4th attacker came from behind. With a stun baton, Sebastian turned too late. The current dropped him to one knee. "No!" The children were crying now, clinging to Ethan. Sebastian looked up through blood and smoke, eyes finding Ethan immediately. There was only one command in them. "Save them." 2 captors piled onto Sebastian, restraining him. Another leveled a gun at the children. "Trade complete," the man sneered. "Take the Alpha." Ethan's world narrowed to a single, impossible choice. Stay and lose all of them. Move and lose him. Sebastian forced out one final word. "Run!" Ethan grabbed the children and ran. His screams chased him down the tunnel. They escaped through the service route as the tactical team regained control of the outer perimeter. By the time they pushed back inside, the kidnappers had vanished through a pre-planned extraction shaft. Sebastian was gone. The triplets were safe. That fact should have meant relief. Instead, the estate felt like mourning. The children slept piled together in Ethan's bed, refusing separation. Every few minutes, one would wake crying for Sebastian. Ethan answered each time with steady lies. "Papa's coming home. He's just working. He loves you." Then he would step into the bathroom, brace both hands on the sink, and silently break apart. Because for the first time since that dark room years ago, Sebastian had been taken, and Ethan had been left behind. By morning, grief had hardened into something sharper. Purpose. The old investigator returned with files. "We'll coordinate agencies," he began. "No," Ethan said. The room paused. Sebastian's father frowned. "Explain." Ethan stood at the head of the table, exhausted and blazing. "They know how security moves. They know how police respond. They predicted the rescue." His voice was ice. "They know Sebastian." He touched his own chest. "They don't know me." His mother-in-law stared, then slowly smiled. "Oh." Ethan turned to the screens. "Pull every warehouse deed transfer in the last 5 years tied to shell companies. Cross-reference utility spikes, off-grid generators, and freight manifests. Search old suspects connected to our original case." An analyst blinked. "That's a lot." "I know." He looked at Sebastian's father. "I need unrestricted access to corporate surveillance satellites. You have it. I need private contractors with cyber warfare backgrounds. Done. I need everyone out of my way." His father-in-law's eyes gleamed with approval. "You married into the correct family." For 3 days, Ethan barely slept. He worked from the war room, children nearby under constant care. He built predictive route models, mapped criminal financing networks, reconstructed voice prints from old case tapes. He noticed what everyone else missed. The kidnappers favored properties near old rail spurs and water access. They reused contractors tied to demolition permits, and one shell company had recently purchased a decommissioned riverside foundry. He zoomed in. Thermal signatures. Irregular. Night movement. Underground blueprints with sealed sublevels. Ethan's pulse thundered. That's where he is. When the tactical team prepared to move, Ethan geared up beside them. Absolutely not, Sebastian's mother said. Yes, Ethan replied. You've done enough. No. His scent rose, roses sharpened by steel, sweetness turned resolute. Then something else came with it, their permanent, joined scent, even without Sebastian present, like the bond itself refusing surrender. Ethan looked at them all. He found me in darkness. He chambered around with steady hands. He found our children. His eyes went deadly calm. Now I'm bringing my husband home. No one tried to stop him again. The foundry crouched beside the river, like something abandoned by the world. Rust-eaten steel, broken windows, flooded loading docks, a dead place pretending to be empty. But Ethan knew better. Thermal feeds showed heat signatures below ground, motion in rotating patterns, armed guards at intervals. One room isolated deeper than the others, holding cell. Sebastian. Rain fell in a fine mist as the extraction convoy cut lights half a mile out. Ethan checked his vest straps with steady hands. No, shaking. No hesitation, only purpose. The tactical commander crouched beside him over a digital map. We breach west and south simultaneously. We secure corridors. You stay behind. Line 2. No. The commander looked at him flatly. Mr. Vale, engineer. Carter, Ethan corrected. And the man in that room is my husband. That doesn't change protocol. It changes everything. Before the commander could argue, Sebastian's father spoke from behind them. He goes. The commander turned. Sir. That was not a suggestion. Then the older Alpha met Ethan's eyes. Bring my son home. Ethan nodded once. I intend to. They entered through a submerged maintenance shaft Ethan had identified from archived blueprints. Cold river water to the knees. Flashlights dark. Weapons raised. The tunnel opened into a service corridor lined with corroded pipes. Ethan led the first turn. This way. The old freight elevator should be 60 feet ahead. The commander muttered to another operative. How does he know this place better than our maps? Ethan didn't look back. Because your maps were wrong. They moved fast. Silent takedowns. 2 guards neutralized before alarms could trigger. Then, a locked blast door. The team's breacher knelt. 3 minutes. Ethan stepped forward. 30 seconds. He opened a side panel, stripped 2 wires, rerouted power through a bypass relay, then entered a maintenance override from memory. The heavy lock thunked open. The breacher stared. Marry me. Already taken, Ethan said, moving through. Deeper underground, they heard shouting. The kidnappers knew something was wrong. Gunfire cracked in the distance. The team split, 1 unit securing exits, 1 pushing toward the cell block. Ethan, with the lead squad. Every step felt like years. Then they reached the chamber. A reinforced room behind bars and concrete. Inside, chained to a support beam, bruised and bloodied, but still upright. Sebastian. His head snapped up. For a moment, he simply stared. Then his scent hit the room like thunder through wet forest. Disbelief. Relief. Love so fierce it hurt. Ethan? Ethan was already running. He reached the bars as the breacher cut the lock. Sebastian's voice cracked. You came. The door opened. Ethan crossed the threshold just as a hidden gunman rose from behind stacked crates inside the room. Down! Someone shouted. The kidnapper leveled the weapon directly at Sebastian. Time slowed. Ethan moved first. He grabbed the fallen sidearm from a downed guard near the doorway, turned, and fired once. The shot echoed like a cannon. The kidnapper dropped. Instantly. A silence followed. Even the tactical team froze. Ethan stood, breathing hard, gun still raised, eyes locked on the threat until he was sure it would never move again. Then the weapon slipped from his hand. He turned to Sebastian. All the steel. Left him at once, Sebastian. They were at each other in a second. Ethan dropped to his knees at the chains, hands shaking now as he worked the restraints. Sebastian cupped Ethan's face with bruised hands. You found me, he whispered. Tears spilled down Ethan's cheeks. He laughed once through the sob. I kept our promise. The chains fell. Sebastian pulled Ethan into him so hard they nearly collapsed. Roses and sugar flooded the room. Forest after rain crashed into it. Their joined scent bloomed richer than ever. Dawn roses drenched in stormlight and morning dew. Every Operative in the room abruptly found somewhere else to look. Sebastian buried his face in Ethan's neck. I knew you'd come. You idiot, Ethan choked out. You absolute self-sacrificing idiot. Sebastian smiled weakly against his skin. That sounds like affection. It's rage. Loving rage. Ethan kissed him hard enough to shut him up. Movement inbound. The commander barked. More kidnappers charging the corridor. The moment shattered into action. Sebastian, still half injured, reached for a fallen rifle. Ethan shoved him back. You've done enough. I can still fight. I know. Ethan snapped. That's the problem. The team formed defense lines while Ethan hauled Sebastian upright. They moved through smoke and concrete dust, covering retreat. At the final stairwell, one surviving captor lunged from the shadows with a knife. Sebastian tried to pivot. Too slow. Ethan slammed the attacker into the rail, drove an elbow into his throat, and sent him tumbling backward down the stairs. Sebastian blinked. That was hot. Ethan stared at him in disbelief. We are in a firefight. And yet, the commander physically shoved them both upward. Please flirt outside. They emerged into cold rain. Medics rushed forward. Lights flashed across the river. The foundry behind them was swarmed. Sebastian swayed once from blood loss. Ethan caught him immediately. I've got you. Sebastian's eyes softened. You always did. Across the lot, 3 tiny voices shrieked in unison. Baba! The triplets barreled through security lines like missiles. Noah hit Sebastian's legs. Rose climbed Ethan. Elias cried, while insisting he was not crying. Sebastian dropped to his knees despite protests and gathered all 3 children into trembling. Arms. Ethan crouched beside them, one hand on Sebastian's shoulder, the other around Rose. Rain soaked all of them. No one cared. Sebastian looked at his family, his children, his mate, all alive. Then at Ethan. You really did keep our promise. Ethan leaned forward and kissed his forehead. No, he said softly. We just keep saving each other. And that's where we're going to leave this story. A promise made in the dark. A love that survived years apart, and a family worth fighting for. But even after everything they endured, their story is far from over. And remember, some promises are strong enough to last a lifetime. Thank you so much for watching. Seriously, it means everything. If you enjoyed this emotional BL Omegaverse journey of Ethan and Sebastian, don't forget to comment what part impacted you the most. Share this with someone who loves emotional romance stories. Turn on notifications for more stories of love, fate, and second chances, and subscribe for more stories like this, because we're just getting started. Until next time, remember, even in the darkest places, love can still find its way back.